Good morning, students. So today will be the topic we'll be doing is Union Judiciary under Indian Constitution. This is the 6th unit and we were left only with this topic. Though we have done it, we have discussed it a bit in the class, but then we'll be completing it today. Union Judiciary. So firstly I'll tell you about India is a federal state, right? And it has a single and unified judicial system with the three-tier structure. What is that? Supreme Court, High Court and Subordinate Court. I'm telling you this in the judicial system, the unified judicial system which we have. And we are going to discuss the topic we are going to discuss is Union Judiciary, which is specifically given under Indian Constitution under Part 5 and Chapter 6, titled as the Union Judiciary. The first point says it. The Indian Constitution provides for a provision of Supreme Court under Part 5, the Union, and Chapter 6 titled the Union Judiciary. Now, Article 124(1) says about what all the Supreme Court will be consisting, a CGI and 31 other judges, right? Here I'll mention Supreme Court number of judges bill 2009 has added 4 judges to strength, and it has increased, the judicial strength has increased from 31 to 34 including the CGI. So earlier it was 31 including the CGI, but now they have increased the judicial strength from 31 to 34. And originally, if we talk, then the strength of Supreme Court was 8, 1 Chief Justice and 7 other judges. So this is all about who all consist, how many judges and Chief Justice. And Article 124(1) specifically talks about the establishment and constitution of Supreme Court. Right? The Article 124 to 147 of the Indian Constitution, it deals with the Union Judiciary. So the topic will be this. We'll be dealing with the jurisdiction, appointment, removal of judges and its other power. So more importantly, what we have to understand is that the Supreme Court is the highest judicial court and it is the final court of appeal. It is the highest judicial court and the final court of appeal. You'll understand it better from this structure of Indian judiciary. If you see, Supreme Court is at the apex. It is the apex court. Then we have higher court below to it. And then further subdivision, metropolitan courts, district and session court. And further civil and criminal from district and session and metropolitan courts. Right? Now, moving on to, so what we have to here understand is the Supreme Court. We are dealing with the Supreme Court, with the Supreme Court, and it is the highest judicial court, the final court of appeal under Constitution of India, the highest constitutional court with the power of the judicial review. I'll explain judicial review further. Now, if we move on to the composition, right? What a composition. At present, Supreme Court consists of 31. Yeah, we have already discussed this point. Appointment of judges. Now, judges are appointed by the President. Chief Justice is appointed by the President after consultation with other judges of Supreme Court and High Court if it is necessary. And the other judges are appointed by the President after consultation with the Chief Justice and other judges of the Supreme Court and High Court, again if deems necessary. So the consultation with Chief Justice is obligatory in the case of appointment of judge other than the Chief Justice. So one has to consult with the Chief Justice. Now there is a controversy over this consultation, which I'll be explaining in the few cases in the next slide. First, we have to understand appointment of judge, right? The appointment of the judges. Now, it is also given under 124 third clause. That is a qualifier. Okay, we'll deal with it later. Fine. Moving on to the what controversy I am talking about. Alright. So here we have first judge's case. we have second judge's case, and we have the third judge case. The first one in 1982. It was a historic judgment, and uh, I'll name it. It's S.P. Gupta versus Union of India, right, in 1982. So what happened in this was the court stated that reading of clause 2 of article 124, and what does 124(2) says? That every judge of Supreme Court shall be appointed by the President by warrant under his hand and sealed after consultation with such of the judges of Supreme Court and of High Court in the states as the President may deem necessary. Alright. And further it is provided in the said subsection, in case of appointment of judge other than Chief Justice, the Chief Justice of India shall always be consulted. Right. So that's what the case says. The first judge's case, the court stated that the reading of clause 2 of article 124, that is the President, which is in effect in substance means the central government, which is empowered by the constitution to appoint the judges of High Court, in the central government, but such power is exercisable only after the consultation with the Chief Justice of India, which is given under the article. Right. So the court held the consultation does not mean concurrence, and it only implies exchange of views. So the court said that it is clear on a plain reading of these two articles that Chief Justice of India, of High Court, and other judges of the Supreme Court, as the central government may deem it necessary to consult, are mere constitutional functionaries having a consultative role. And other than that, the power of the appointment, it resides solely and exclusively in the central government. And in this case, the court held that consultation does not mean concurrence. But then again, under the second judge's case, what happened? It reversed its earlier ruling. It is a historic judgment in Supreme Court Advocate on Record Association versus Union of India. In 1993, court held that in the matter of appointment of judges of Supreme Court and the High Court, opinion of CGI, it has to be final. Right? And that no appointment can be made by the President unless it is in conformity with the opinion of CGI. So the court reversed its previous ruling, which it gave in the first judge case, right? It says the court reversed its earlier ruling, the second point, and changed the meaning of the word consultation to concurrence. Then further moving on to the third judge's case. Right. A 9-judge bench of Supreme Court unanimously held that the recommendation made by the CGI on appointment of judges of Supreme Court and High Court without following the consultation process are not binding on the government. Basically, the court widened the scope of consultation process and said that collegium should consist of CGI and 4 senior-most judges of the Supreme Court. This is what it said. Perfect. So the court opined that the consultation process to be adopted by the CGI, it requires consultation of plurality judges. So this was the controversy over consultation. Supreme Court has given different interpretation of the word consultation in its 3 cases. Like in the first judge case, court held consultation does not mean concurrence and it only implies exchange of views. But then in the second judge case, the court reverses earlier ruling, changed the meaning of the word consultation to concurrence. And hence it ruled that the advice tendered by CGI is binding on the President in matter of even appointment of judges of Supreme Court. But CGI would tender his advice on matter after consulting 2 of his senior-most colleagues. So similarly in third judge's case, the court opined that consultation process to be adopted by the CGI of India Chief Justice of India, requires consultation of plurality judges, right? So he should consult, this means he should consult a collegium of 4 senior most judges of Supreme Court. So that is the whole controversy over this consultation, right? The consultation point, which was already given under the Article 124(2), but court made it more clear. Now moving on to the qualification for appointment. All right. The qualification of the appointment, it is given under 124(3). Very simple. Firstly, it will be appointed by the President of India. Then qualification is citizen of India first, as usual, and a High Court judge for at least 5 years, or High Court advocate for at least 10 years, or a distinguished jurist. 3 of these points, and can hold office till the age of 65 years. So that's a basic qualification. Important in 124(4), subclause 4 talks about removal of judges. So a judge of Supreme Court, he can be removed from his office by an order of the President. Now, the President can issue this removal order after an address by Parliament has been presented to him in the same session for such removal. So there is a procedure, right? You cannot solely remove a judge. There is a procedure. The President can issue the removal order only after an address by Parliament has been presented to him in the same session for such removal. Now this address must be supported by special majority of each House of Parliament. This is the procedure. Like it is written. A motion, second point, a motion addressed to the President, it has to be signed by 100 members of Lok Sabha and 50 members of Rajya Sabha. Alright. So majority of total membership of that house and a majority of not less than 2/3 of members of that house present and voting. Now what are the grounds of removal? There are 2. Either prove misbehavior or incapacity. These 2 things are the grounds. Then the Judges Inquiry Act 1968, it regulates the procedure relating to removal of a judge of the Supreme Court by the process of impeachment. We call it process of impeachment. So till now, no judge of Supreme Court has been impeached so far. But impeachment motion of Justice V. Ramaswamy, 1991 to 1993, he was there. Justice Deepak Mishra, it was defeated in the Parliament. Right? Deepak Mishra was here until from 2017 to 18. So motion was moved, but it got defeated in the Parliament. So that's the whole thing. Moving on to the jurisdiction of Supreme Court, again an important part, very important. The jurisdiction and power of Supreme Court, it can be classified into the following. Fine. First is original jurisdiction, then is writ jurisdiction, appellate, advisory, court of record, power of judicial review. Starting with original, firstly I'll tell you what jurisdiction means. So, jurisdiction is the authority given to a legal body, a court, to administer justice within a defined field of responsibility. Right? This is what jurisdiction means. It is the authority given to a legal body, supposedly a court, to administer the justice within a defined field. Within a defined field of responsibility. Now, original jurisdiction. We understood jurisdiction, we have to understand what original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Now, original jurisdiction of a court, it refers to a matter for which the particular court is approached first. Now, in case Supreme Court in India, its original jurisdiction, it is covered under Article 131. It involves the following cases. Yes, it is given over here. So, as written, as a federal court, the Supreme Court decides the dispute between different unit of Indian Federation. Any dispute between, now 3 points are there. If there is any dispute between them, then original jurisdiction comes into play. The first is if there is any dispute between the Indian government and one or more state. Indian government and one or more state. Second, if any dispute between Indian government and one or more state on the one side and on the other, more states on the other side. And the third point, if there is any dispute between 2 or more states. So we have to understand this clearly. If there is any dispute between the Indian government and one or more state. Second point, if dispute between Indian government and one or more state on one side, and on the other side more states on the other side, right? And third point, if the states are having any dispute or more states are having any dispute. So in the first 2 points, Indian government is into the picture. In this last one, only 2 more states. Now this jurisdiction of Supreme Court, it does not extend to few things. I'll just say it quick. Dispute arising of any pre-constitutional treaty, agreement, covenant and engagement, right? Dispute arising out of any treaty, agreement, etc., which specifically provides that the said jurisdiction does not extend to such a dispute. Interstate water disputes, in these cases, the jurisdiction of Supreme Court does not extend to. Or if there is any matter, refer to Finance Commission, right? Adjustment of certain expenses, pension between center and the states. Then ordinary dispute of commercial nature between the center and the state. Then recovery of damage by a state against the center. So yes, that is the whole point. Moving on to the next, writ jurisdiction. Now the Constitution has constituted the Supreme Court as the guarantor and defender of fundamental right of citizen, right? Supreme Court is basically empowered to issue writ including habeas corpus. Now what are the 5 writs? We have already done with it. I'll say including habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto, certiorari, for the enforcement of fundamental right of an aggrieved citizen. So in this regard, Supreme Court has original jurisdiction in the sense that an aggrieved citizen can directly go to the Supreme Court, not directly by way of appeal, but directly can approach the Supreme Court, right? So though this writ jurisdiction is not exclusive to the Supreme Court, it is also given to the High Court for the enforcement of fundamental rights and other legal rights. Alright. Supreme Court is empowered to issue writs. Yes, so we are done with the both points. Then appellate jurisdiction. Article 132, 133, 134, 136 deals with it. Supreme Court is primarily a court of appeal and hear appeal against the judgment of the lower court. Now under this, Supreme Court can hear cases only when they are appeal against a High Court. If there is an appeal against the High Court order, then only the Supreme Court can hear cases under this jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction. That is why we name it appellate, where an appeal is filed against a High Court order. Appeal can be filed against High Court order only in the Supreme Court, right? The Supreme Court is primarily a court of appeal and hear appeal against the judgment of the lower court. And in appellate jurisdiction are under 4 heads. If we say, then appeal in constitutional matter, in civil matter, criminal matter, or appeal by special leave, right? Then is advisory jurisdiction. This is given under Article 143 firstly. So this authorizes the President to seek the opinion of Supreme Court in 2 categories of matter. First is on any question of law or fact of public importance which has arisen or which is likely to arise. Second is, so first, if you understood, if there is any question of law, then a President can seek opinion of Supreme Court, or fact of public importance or which is likely to arise. Any fact of public importance, then a President can seek its opinion from Supreme Court. Where in the second point, on any dispute arising out of any pre-constitution, treaty, agreement, covenant, engagement, senate or other similar instrument. So if you understood, in the first case, Supreme Court may tender or may refuse to tender its opinion to President. But in the second case, Supreme Court must tender its opinion to the President. And in both the cases, the opinion expressed by the Supreme Court is only advisory. That's what it is named, advisory jurisdiction. It is not a judicial pronouncement. It is a mere advisory jurisdiction. Hence, it is not binding on the President. He may follow it or he may not follow the opinion, but he can seek an opinion from the Supreme Court. So but it also facilitates the government to have an authoritative legal opinion on matter which is to be decided. So that is a major power given to Supreme, given under Article 143 of Indian Constitution. Then moving on to the final, other powers are a court of record, then a power of judicial review. If I explain you what the court of record is, see, Article 129 firstly talk about it of the Constitution declares the Supreme Court to be a court of record. Now this court of record have two power. What is the first power? That the judgment, proceeding, an act of the Supreme Court, they are recorded for permanent memory, and the testimony that these records can be produced before any court because they have evidentiary value and they can be questioned. So firstly for this purpose, because these judgments, these proceedings of the Supreme Court, they have the evidentiary value and that they can be produced later, and so they should be recorded. So first is this. Second is that it has a power to punish for its contempt, which means insult, either with this. Now the punishment is with the imprisonment for 6 months or with a fine, or with a fine up to 2,000 or with both, right? So this is a court of record. So the two power, first is to record for the evidentiary value, recording for the evidentiary value, and second is to power to punish for its contempt. So that is the whole thing. In 1991, I'll also add on to Supreme Court rule that it has power to punish for contempt not only to itself but of the High Court and other subordinate court and tribunals as well. So contempt of court, it can be to civil or criminal. Now civil contempt is simple, it means any willful disobedience of any judgment, or if there is any willful disobedience supposedly of any judgment or any order or any writ or other process of a court, or a willful breach of any undertaking given to a court. So a willful disobedience and a willful breach of any undertaking. Whereas this comes under civil contempt. Then the criminal contempt, it means the publication of any matter or doing an act which scandalizes or lowers the authority of a court, right? So doing any publication of any matter or doing any act which lowers the authority of a court or prejudices or interfere with the due course of judicial proceeding or interfere the administration of justice. So this comes under criminal contempt. Moving on to power of judicial review, the last, it is the power of Supreme Court to examine constitutionality of legislative enactment and executive order of both the central and state government. Now, yeah, on examination, yes, they are found to be violative of constitution. They can be declared as illegal, unconstitutional and invalid by the Supreme Court. So judicial, basically it is needed for these, judicial review is needed to uphold the principle of supremacy of constitution, to maintain the federal equilibrium, that is balance between the center and state, and to protect the fundamental right of citizen. So judicial review, this phrase has not been used in constitution. The provision of this several article 12 explicitly confers the power of judicial review on the Supreme Court, right? So power of judicial review, it is the power of Supreme Court to examine the constitutionality of legislative enactment. What is the constitutionality of any legislative enactment and executive order of both the central and state government? These are the other powers. So more other powers are like decide the dispute regarding election of president and vice president. It has the original, in this regard they have original exclusive final authority. It inquires into the conduct and behavior of chairman and member of UPSC, right, on a reference if made by the president, if the reference is made by the president. Then, and if they find them guilty of misbehavior, it can recommend to the president for their removal. So these are some other. So we are done with the whole syllabus of the constitution, and yes, we were only left with this. Thank you.